Going to take two over here. Wow. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Welcome to another episode of Climate Change in the Multiverse. I'm here with Miss Molly Jane, the one and only. Thank you for being here, Molly. Molly's an oracle. She's an alien and an angel and just light embodied. I'm so grateful to know you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Any chance that I can get just to talk about any sort of weird stuff, I'm here for it.
Yes, let's dig in. So before we catch up, I want to make a note of the energy that's been going on lately. I heard you describe it recently. You were saying you're like, it's a portal, but portal's not the right word. Yeah. And I've been calling, like, it slipped out of my mouth a couple of months ago. I was like, vortal. I was like, vortex, portal, which one is it? And I'm like, it's both.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. That's cool. A vortal. I love the human language and how limited we are in being able to explain the things that are really going on. And even then, like vortal, that's just like something, it feels okay to our brain to say that because it's also not quite right, but it's still unique to our brain and it doesn't represent anything. It doesn't have any like attachments to that word already. So that feels the best on my system when you say that. But even then, still, it's not the right words. Like words are limited and it kills me. Okay, so should we talk about the energies at the moment?
Yeah, tell me what you're feeling.
Okay, so basically, God, there's so much. Like, where do we begin? Okay, so what we'll do, let's time stamp the energies of where we're at right now at the moment. So we've got a full moon that's coming up tomorrow, I'm pretty sure. We're also in something that you may see in the social media world called the Lionsgate portal, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is where I do probably have some things to work through because I have some resistance in like saying like the Lionsgate portal. Like I don't like, because again, it feels limited to me. It doesn't feel 100% authentic in the way that we are trying to describe what it truly is. So maybe that's where my resistance comes from. I'm learning something new about myself already. We're 1 minute in. Fantastic. So what is the way okay, so first of all, I'm an oracle and I have the ability to, for people who are just wondering, I have the ability to, what I've been saying lately is I'm exceptionally good at translating the language of energy in all dimensions. So I can kind of get to a certain state and then I can translate the energy because sometimes words are limited. So based on that, what I have seen when I've looked at the Lionsgate portal is there's this very thin layer in the atmosphere that seems to be integrating more light into Earth's surface. And it's on brand of what is happening to the planet and this big shift that we're going through. And, you know, if we zoom out a little bit further than that, you know, we've all heard we're going from 3D to 5D and all of that as well. Bullshit, right? Whatever, words are limited. But what is happening from my perspective and from what I've seen is more light is being integrated onto the planet, which in turn flushes out density to bring the earth to a higher frequency, right? And when I say higher frequency, I don't necessarily mean better or worse. I literally just mean faster. It's a faster frequency. A higher frequency is a faster frequency. A lower frequency is a slower frequency. And when something's slower, there's more density. There's more mass. Like there's more of this, whereas if something's a little bit higher, there's less density, which means we're operating like faster and more lighter. And yes, that in human terms is a little bit more positive, so to speak. But that's kind of what's happening overall. So then we have these little portals or whatever where they integrate more light at that time during the year. And that's what's happening with the Lionsgate portal at the moment. So what people might be feeling is their own internal shifts where, you know, it might have been like a week or a couple of weeks ago, they felt like they were in a pressure cooker, where everything, all this density was just like coming up to the surface. And, you know, it could be personal, but you also may have been feeling the collective's energy as well. Like it's not just our things, but our human brain likes to attach meaning to why we're feeling a certain way. So with this pressure cooker vibes, it's almost like it was all coming up, and then I don't know about you, but the last 2 days I've just had a shift, and I've just been like, oh.
Yes.
Have you?
Oh my gosh, the past week has felt like I'm in the center of a tornado. And it's like moving around. There's all this, but I'm like kind of in the center, and I'm stable because I'm in the center, but I'm shifting with it. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know where it's going, or I do, but it's like, it feels like a falling into place. Like I feel like it's been a trust fall. And that like my priorities have shifted, and I'm just seeing like, I'm like, this energy has been building up for about a month for me, like of like, I can only focus on what I need, what's in front of me, what's most important. And the things that like, everything else just kind of falls by the wayside. I'm like, oh, it's just one piece at a time. And I have to this is where the energy needs to go. And like, so many things are just kind of sliding away. And it's like, whoa, it's so freeing.
So freeing. And I think, I think that's a similar vibe. I think I said to you right before we started, I'm like, I have to just get rid of all energetic liabilities. And it's a bit more black and white now. Like, it's just like, I can't, like, it's not selfish. It's actually self-love to just know what's pulling you out of alignment and what's not. But like, you know, what's pulling you out of your most centered, stable, peaceful state, you know, and just deciding whether it's really worth staying in your life or not.
Yes. I was thinking about that, and think like, because with one area of my life, I'm taking baby steps out of something. I've been just up against this work thing and being like, what do I do with this work thing? What capacity do I continue it at? What effort do I put into it? What resources am I being given in exchange for this work? And I felt like, I'm like, there's one impulse, cut and run, like burn bridges, and I'm like, it's not that. And then the other impulse is like, well, just do everything for free and sacrifice yourself. And, and neither of those are correct. So I've been trying to find this middle path, and like, I haven't known what that looked like. So I was just taking a step forward, and in my mind, I was like, well, you have to have the solution. You have to know exactly what you're doing. I'm like, no. I know I want to walk the middle path, and I know I need to take a step forward, and it's a building block, and I'll reassess as I go. But the energy has just been so clear. Like, there's just like walls when I go to somewhere that it's not meant to be anymore. It's just like, oof. And because I've been living in a way that allows myself to be free, like you and I both have experienced living home free quite extensively, and that's how we met through our travels, and just throwing yourself to the wind and not necessarily knowing we're going to be next week or even tomorrow night, and just receiving the invitations and feeling out the energy is just like, whoa. And it's all shifting too, but it's just like, yes, oh, this. And then like, it's this little kind of energetic puzzle of just like feeling it all out.
Right. And this is something that I always think about too. We're quite privileged to be able to be in a situation to do that. So, sometimes like I'm always like, just follow the flow and do this and do that. And I'm like, a lot of people who I talk to can't actually do that. But then, I don't know, like we all do have a choice to try and set up our life in a way where it can be more free in order to support our impulses like that, I guess. So, I guess I just want to say props to you for putting yourself in a really uncomfortable situation to be able to live that freely and be able to live in a space where you can trust your impulses enough like that, because that does take bravery. It does. It's not all bloody rainbows and unicorns. Like, it's just not. Everyone's like, oh, you're living the best life. I'm like, yeah, sometimes it's fucked, but it's also fun.
Yeah. It's hard. It's taken a lot of practice. Like a couple years ago, I'd be crying, like, my bank account's down to zero. I don't know where the next money's coming in. I don't know where I'm sleeping. Like, but then I kept being shown like that I'm supported in community, and that when I take this step forward, like it's just trust. Like the Terrence McKenna quote, like when you the universe is a feather bed. I forget the exact quote, but it's just like when that's the secret, the key, the shamanic dance under the waterfall is like when you leap into the abyss and find out it's a feather bed.
Right. And you know what? That kind of makes me think about, I feel like the concept and the paradigm around abundance is shifting. And like every paradigm shifting at the moment, but abundance especially. Our human brains are conditioned to be like, oh my God, I need to have like, you know, enough there like for the next 17 months and blah, blah, blah. And if I don't, like, I'm going to have a heart attack, when really we've been living in this space where we have been shown constantly that even though sometimes we might get down to the wire, we're always granted with enough. It's our expectations of more that trip us up. And really that is the definition of abundance. Just knowing that we're always supported, we're always safe, and it might not look like the way that we had it planned to look like in our head. But our resources are always there. It's like, I don't know, I'm going to get this story wrong. I'm going to get this story wrong when I'm going to have a crack. All right. I'm going to have a crack. So it's like that saying or there was this guy on an island, right? And he was stranded, he had nothing. And then he was praying to God. He was like, please, God, come and save me. God's going to come and save me. And then a boat comes past and they were like, hey, come jump on the boat. And he was like, nah, it's all good. God's going to come and save me. And then a helicopter comes past and they were like, here, come. And he's like, nah, it's all good. God's coming to save me. He's going to bring me everything I need. Like, it's all good. And then like the third thing came past. I can't remember what it was, but we'll call it a drone. Probably wasn't a drone, but we'll call it a drone. And they were like, what do you need? And he's like, nah, all good. And then God comes along. God's like, what are you doing, bro? This is not quote for quote, by the way. And the guy was like, oh, you're here. And God's like, I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter, and I sent you the drone. Like, why aren't you accepting help in those forms? He's like, oh, I thought you were going to bring everything else. So you get the gist. We always have enough. It just might not look like the way we thought it was going to look like.
Totally. It's totally the ego going like, what's next? What does the future hold? Like the ego can't live in the present. It's always fixating on the past or the future. And like, because we need, well, the abundance within this capitalist paradigm has just trapped us in this fear cycle, because we do need money to survive, you know, and the cost of living is rising, and everyone's feeling that tension, even if it's just in the collective. Like your point earlier is well taken. That's something I'm always reminding myself when I feel anxiety. I'm like, is this mine or is it collective? And like, of course it's both, but like you talk a lot about energetic clearing and being aware of your auric space around you, because like there's all these things coming in. There's just so much, like, even if it's just the sound outside your window of construction, or like the thing that you scrolled through, like we're always imprinting and mingling with these other energies, and they affect us in ways that we don't understand.
100%. It's so important. And that was like one of the real, like, first things, I guess, that I understood, just how important it is to have a clear energetic field, a clear extension of our energetic field, so our space that we're living in. You know, if you go to hotels, like, you know, this is us in our gypsy life, we're going into a hotel, and if I don't like cleanse the space with either sound or smoke or whatever, all the people who have slept in the bed before me, I'm just like sleeping in all of their energetic shit. Ew! You know, energetic hygiene is so important. Like, and I've told stories before, like, and we've all had stories like this, where you go to the supermarket or whatever, and you come back and you just feel like shit, or you hang out with someone and you're so drained afterwards or whatever. And that's evidence in itself enough, you know. That's just the tip of the iceberg evidence that energetically we are imprinted with things that aren't ours. So imagine what we don't know. It's so important to cleanse your energy. Yeah.
And so we can have the clarity to know what we're feeling, like talking about what's next and stepping into things, because the world is shifting so dramatically, and perhaps people like you and I feel it in a certain dynamic because we're in constant movement and adapting. There could be more of a flow there, but for all of us, we're learning into following the energy. And as you're speaking, it made me think of the like muscle testing and the lean test, like, because for me, accessing my intuition and knowing what's correct for me has been a struggle over the years. Like I've done a lot of work with tarot and then astrology and like talking to intuitive readers, and felt like I kept outsourcing my knowing. And even something like a muscle test, I'm like, can I even trust that? But now, like, you can kind of push any tool, like you can keep pulling the tarot until you get something different, but like, it's gonna, if you're abusing these things, they're not going to work with you. But yeah, just having a clear energetic flow. And like the muscle test, for people who are listening, like you just put your pointer finger and your thumb together and you pull your other pointer finger through it and say like, my name is Kelly, and I see the fingers stay together, or like my name is Bob, and then it goes through.
That's yeah. Because my name's Bob.
My name's Bob. So be like, it's in my highest and best good to go to the island today. Oh, so I'm like, where am I going tonight? Where am I staying tomorrow? This is currently where I am. Apparently it is, but that's where I don't know, because there's so many subtleties. But the lean test is another one where you're standing up and you just kind of like lean forward a bit and you say something like, oh, I want to go to it's my best interest to go to this movie tonight. And like, does the energy fall forward? Is there flow, or is there a block?
Yeah. Interesting. It's also interesting. It's all, and this goes, I think I was saying this on my live yesterday, how truth is so, it's not black and white anymore. It's like, what is true for someone, for you, for me, like whatever. It's not just like black and white anymore. It's got this depth to it now, and almost kind of like, yes, there's facts, but then if we dig deep enough, like you could almost find like a little bit of truth to like anything. So when we say like for intuition, right, and muscle testing, yes, our body might be saying, should I go to work today? And it's like, well, my body says I shouldn't go to work today. But then like there's the truth to that is, if like you don't go to work, you're probably going to get fired. And, there might be like something else in there. So it's like, you got to always kind of be in this balanced place where you can weigh up the pros and cons of, what is actually intuition, what you can follow, to, what you maybe can just ignore. But then it's so hard. Like we're being such a Gemini and Virgo right now. It's like such a Gemini and Virgo right now, Mercury led signs. I'm just like, there's truth to everything, blah blah blah. But like seriously, there is. It's crazy. I could go insane if I wanted to.
I go insane all the time. Like, I'm also a Gemini rising, so like it's just like, I'm just like, and like, no, I mean, like, what is truth in a multiverse, right? We have this mythology that there's a set reality out there that exists outside of us, and that's just not true. We're all existing from our little point of positionality, and we all see like our little world, but it's like, it's infinite out there. And truth is like, I do believe there are these like root truths in terms of energetic dynamics and like polarities and like constructs of duality. But in terms of interpersonal truth, like, my personal experience, and the like, is it in my highest and best interest to go to work today? It's like, well, you're using your body as a tool to see what you're resonating at, but it's not like there's no yes or no or black or white. There's so many complexities at play, as you said, like, we have to survive in this world. Oh, but sometimes we have to show up and take risks and do things differently. And like, what does that look like? And where do I go? And then, our little Mercury minds explode.
So it's interesting, because then maybe like the answer is that, and I think I have said this before, just like pick something and go with it. Like, our attachments to holding on to the right or wrong answer is the thing that trips us up. Like, just like, should we all just be like going with it and flowing with it and making the best of whatever the situation is that comes up? Like, it's your brain that's like, oh, if I had to pick this, then maybe this would have happened and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, we don't really know. So we just have to kind of make the most of where we're at.
Well, you said this a month or so ago, and it just sunk so deeply for me, was that like, you just have to accept the choice you've made. Like, there's no wrong choice, because I still grapple with a lot of sort of sin ideology, like I'm bad or I'm wrong if I do X, Y, or Z, whether it's I'm not working hard enough, or if I drink some alcohol. You know, there's all sorts of different ways in which I can beat myself up for not being good enough because I'm not seeing the like quote unquote manifested reality that capitalism told me. But when you said that, I was just like, right, it's just about like resonating with what is. And I was sitting with that and it was hitting me. And then a couple of days later, I was with a friend in Portland and I was like, oh, I want to get this beer. And then I was like, oh no, I shouldn't, you know, or whatever. And she was just like, do what thou wilt.
Yeah.
Like that's Alistair Crowley's like, do as thou wilt, that shall be the whole of the law, you know, like that's it. Just do it and like embrace that you're doing it and don't judge yourself for doing it. And like if you're gonna do it and set yourself free.
This is a big one. And it's funny because before any podcast I do, I always pick a tarot card of what the theme's going to be. And I got the 5 of Wands and it was about, but it was fighting with yourself. And it's this very topic of, you know, what's right, what's wrong, you know, I should do this, I shouldn't do this. And I feel like I have done a lot of work around this. And I worked with a couple of mentors when like my powers or whatever were starting to like come through, and they did a lot of psyche work on me going to really, really dark places in my psyche, like the most ugliest. There's a helicopter out there, I don't know if you can hear it, it's just like circling at my window basically, so as long as you can still hear me. So yeah, this work, and it was like going to different places in my psyche and stretching my psyche to places where my brain hasn't taken me before. So, you know, imagining me being violent, imagining me being like just feral, me going into the middle of like a really busy place and just acting like an animal, like just doing random things that this Molly would never do in real human 3D life, but stretching my psyche to go there. And then what it did is it made me more accepting of the dirtier or the uglier parts, because my psyche had already been stretched to go there, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I felt like that really helped, like just, you know, doing the opposite of what this body thought I needed to do and meditating on me doing like just the most fucked up shit. But it worked. And I know I'm never going to do it in this life because like my soul blueprint, I just could never do something like that. But if I stretched my psyche to go there, then all of a sudden me saying no to somebody and putting a boundary in place was a walk in the park, you know?
Be like, we've been to the depths, like this.
Yeah, I'm like, we've gone to the depths. Like, you know, my mind has gone to places your mind will never have gone, and now just pulling myself back into like basic, like, who cares, and acceptance of me, acceptance of this, like. And I just think it's so important. That's the most freeing thing, like to be able to just be free and not have to worry about opinions and people worrying about, you know, what you're doing and them worrying about who you are and blah, blah, blah. Because if you know who you are and you accept who you are, then it just does not matter what the world thinks. It just doesn't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you came to your gifts out of a dark place.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you tell us a little bit about that? Because that's what's coming up for me when you're talking about going there in the psyche. And like, not only did you voluntarily go there, you also found yourself in a place where maybe you didn't feel like you had that autonomy or sovereignty to be free, but then it like triggered this deeper layer of exploration.
So yeah, I was in a relationship for 14 years, and you know, 10 of that were pretty good, right? But then, you know, the truth started to come undone and there was a lot of layers there. But basically towards the end of the relationship, I didn't realize how controlled or manipulated I was, because I was a child when we got together and he was my God, essentially. Like I just, whatever he said was truth and Bible, and you know, I had the best dad in the world. So I genuinely thought that all masculine men were just like my dad. So when I blindly went, like head first into a relationship at the age of 17. I just expected him to be like my dad. And it wasn't. And this 14-year period, it was just a constructed lie. There was abuse, manipulation, just so much, so much. And then once we kind of got to the end, you'll think this is funny. He's a triple Taurus. So he was very possessive, ownership, and it took me a lot to get away. So there were times, you know, look, I won't go into full details because I don't feel like it's really necessary, but it does feel like this period, it was like a good 3 to 4 years of me really trying to get away. And I was so controlled and squashed, and like he wouldn't sign the divorce papers. I had to physically, like a couple of times I'd get back to the house and have to leave in the middle of the night with an overnight bag, left everything at the house. There was times, you know, I would be in Airbnbs or hotels, just so dark because I wasn't allowed to tell anyone what was going on. He would threaten to do things to me. And yeah, so it was just, I was in a prison. I was in a mental prison, I was in a physical prison. And as a result of that, in the depths, I had no choice but to start looking at aspects of myself, of how I had got myself into a situation like this in the first place. Like, it was the biggest ego death I've ever been through, because my whole world, everything that I looked at no longer looked the same. And I just had to just reconstruct this whole new world, my whole identity again, but then also make sure that I was clearing a lot of this trauma from my vessel, because I didn't want to, you know, go into other relationships and poison people. And I didn't want to be bitter either as well. I didn't want this to really just ruin me. I didn't want this to ruin me, and it very well could have. So as a result of that, it ended up being the biggest gift ever, because once I started to pull all of this stuff away and like clear this vessel, I was like, wow, I wasn't giving myself credit for like how like big I could be. You know, I was in a relationship with a 6'4" steroid monster, and I was this little 5'3", just like whatever you want. And I was like, he was keeping me small physically and mentally. And when I got to break away from that, finally, I was like, I am so much bigger than him. Like, and it feels good. It felt good. So what I got to do was like really feel into my edges, like really feel into my edges. And this is what I live by now. And this is why I say it's the biggest gift of all, because you know, we could have been soulmates. Well, we were soulmates, right? We chose this before we came. He volunteered as tribute to come and be the biggest dog, and that's a compliment, on the planet, to, you know, just drill me into the ground, break me to pieces, because he knew how strong my soul would be and I would come back from it. And as a result, if I did, I was going to go to all the edges of me, and I was going to make sure everyone else was going to go to all the edges of them as a result of that. So I'd do it all again.
Wow.
Mm.
Thank you for that. And just the feeling of going to the edge is like, yes. Oh, it's the insecurity and the lack of confidence, like, just to me has been such a strong, like, I don't know, I'm just like feel like a lasso around you, where you're like, I don't, like, am I sure, is this really who, am I okay? You know, like, there's so much that's put on us, and so much that we put on ourselves that keeps us small, when like we're all here to be 10 feet tall.
Yes. We are. And that's all I want. Like, I that's genuinely all I want for people, is to feel that freedom and to go to the edges of who they are. Because I really do believe that everyone at their core isn't bad. No, I really do believe that. I see the best in everyone. And, it's just some little factors that might get put in play, like, contracts, ancestral history, like whatever, right? It's that make all of that. But I feel like most people genuinely at the core aren't that bad. So this is why I'm such a, I'm talking about this, and I want to get everyone to get their energy right and all of this, because I know if they just make a couple of little tweaks here and there, they can clear away, and then all of a sudden the essence of their soul starts to seep through again, and they're like, oh, I remember. And then the more you remember, the more you start to just be okay. You melt into the okayness of you, and then it just doesn't matter what the world's saying anymore. And that's freedom.
And this light, coming back to the portal, the vortal,
The portal.
this energy that's coming through, like removing the density, that's helping people get them. I wanted to say with the word portal, I think and I love your resistance to words. They're boundaried, and they're these containers, these boxes, and we all have our own different relationship with the box. And portal to me feels like something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Like it's linear. Like a portal is like something that you step through.
Yes.
And in a sense, like that is that is a metaphor for what's happening, but I feel like it's so not linear, and it's so much. And if there was a linearity to it, it would be about depth or a deepening or a removal of layers instead of a stepping through something.
100%. And even as you're saying that, I can see like all these white flashes of light. Like it's like I could see the earth actually getting thinner as we're talking about this. And it's depth. It's what you're saying. It looks like depth. It's like they were just showing me the visual representation of what you were saying. And it was depth. It was like this. It wasn't just, but it went round as well. It wasn't just like I'm stepping through. But our humans have to limit the everything because we can't understand it otherwise. And it's tough.
We couldn't live a human experience if we were taking in all of that information. Like, I don't think I think, you say everything. I'm like everything everywhere all at once. That's the multiverse, right? And it is everything everywhere is all at once. Like it's the no thing. It's the divine consciousness. Like we're all just emerging out of it, but we emerge in these bodies in the experience of duality. Because we're in a body, there is separation.
Yes. Oh my God. I could go on about this topic all day. Like there's so many ways my brain can go with this. But it's just like, where do you stop? Like, this is why I went so crazy for a while there that I had to learn how to be a human again. And now it's my number one priority. Like number one, and this is why it's funny coming to LA, right? Like everyone's all, which is fine. We've all been there, but everyone's like woo-woo, like Topanga and blah, blah, blah. And it's great. It's awesome. It's awesome. I love that people are like this. But it's like you kind of have to come back full circle and remember that we're humans having a human experience. And that's the most important spiritual thing of all. Not like doing psychedelics every weekend and bypassing and going to an ayahuasca ceremony or like not doing all of that. The most spiritual thing that you can do is show up as a human and dance this motherfucking dance. That's tough. It's not meant to be easy. It's not meant to be easy, but that's the point of it. Like this beautiful contrast that we get to experience on this planet is the soul stretching that's going to, collect the data for, the aliens or whatever, like whatever it is. No one knows.
Like consciousness is here to meet itself. It needs to meet itself at every little angle in every little way. And it's like all these different expressions. And
it's funny, like you say everything everywhere all at once. I'm like, this all matters, but it also doesn't. So make sure you're having fun. Make sure you're getting up every day and you're enjoying your coffee. and you're going and you're having a dance in the kitchen. And, like last night, it was midnight. I had a burst of energy. I'm like, I'm not going to waste this. I was eating a choc chip cookie. And I was like, well, it seems like the perfect time to learn the choreography to Baby One More Time by Britney Spears. And I genuinely learned it. And I'm so good at it.
That's amazing.
It was midnight.
You got the braids and everything. You're all set up to.
I know. Like, I really like. I'm gonna do a video. So
Yes, please.
But that's what I'm saying. Like this, like we may as well have fun. Otherwise, we lose ourselves in trying to gain all this knowledge and information when really we're just going to be chasing our tail.
Yeah, knowledge is ultimately shallow waters, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's also, that's the non-black and white truth thing again, because it's also power. Like there's so many layers. There's so many layers, but like, ultimately like this truth that we're looking for, we could just be digging and digging and digging, but then knowledge is power. Like if you know yourself, that's power, because in any given situation, you can show up and just be like, well, here I am, take it or leave it. And that's power. So I don't know that no one knows.
No one knows. And we're all seeking recognition. We all want to be witnessed. We want to know ourselves. I think that's an intrinsic human thing. And then how do you know yourself? How do you know what you want? Because part of knowing yourself is knowing where you're going or having an idea of what you're leaning into. And how do we know this? Because there's just so much that is put on us. And I've been thinking about the Barbie movie a lot, and these concepts of pink and blue, like this duality, these constructs. Like I think the pink can also be seen as the red, and we know the red and the blue pill in the Matrix. It's like very much this like dualistic paradigm of these two energies. And it's just been, speaking about the vortal and the energies of like what's happening. I've been feeling this integration, and like even just everybody's talking about the Barbie movie, but like, I think that's so interesting that everyone's talking about it, because like, even if you're not aware that you're talking about like this masculine feminine duality, like you can't talk about this cultural device without touching on the depths of everything, really.
Yeah, I know. It was such a good movie. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it did. I would love to watch it again, and probably another 2 times to really just see it from a few different layers. But you're right. I did read your article on that. It was really, really good. And I think you should put these on LinkedIn if you're not already. I had that thought when I was
thinking of, thank you for that reminder. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. When I was walking, I was like, I need to tell her to start putting these on LinkedIn, because I know a lot of writers who have been putting their work on LinkedIn and getting so much work from it.
Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah. I will do that. I think LinkedIn, I deleted it a little while ago because I was like, I'm an artist. I don't need LinkedIn.
You do. It's
so one of my clients was like, are you on LinkedIn? I was like, oh, I'll get back on there.
Yeah, you have to be. And isn't that so annoying? Like, social media in itself, like even me, I was like, I'm like, if I don't get on and put in a little bank deposit of like me on social media, like I don't sell stuff. So it's like, it's interesting. It's funny, that social media world, but that's perspective as well. That's me being negative about it when I could see it as just like, it's an opportunity to connect with people and blah, blah, blah. Like it's, again, choosing something and then making the most of it.
Absolutely. Oh, so how's Venice these days? How's, I saw you there about a month ago. We connected in Venice. So Molly and I, we met in Guatemala. And I was just reflecting, it's so funny because after I saw you that day, I went and met with some other friends who I'd met in Guatemala years previous.
That's crazy.
And guess who, later today, I get a call from my friend Sin, who I met in Guatemala a couple of weeks after me. We're connecting in Vancouver. She just happens to be here. So we're meeting this afternoon. I'm like, every time.
So crazy. Honestly, Guatemala, like, but this is what I mean about portals or whatever. I feel that, this is grid work, right? There's certain areas of the grid that you get attracted to, that you need energetic blueprint, because it's all about energetic blueprint and upgrading your DNA with certain light, right? And then on the grid, on the planet, if it's broken up into little grid squares, there's certain grids that hold a different frequency that you can go to give your body a certain energetic blueprint upgrade through the light or whatever, or the sun gives you upgrades, or energy healings, or food, or interactions with people. So when you get called to go to a place, you receive this energetic upgrade and blueprint upgrade from there, and then everyone kind of spurts out and like then gives the upgrades to wherever. But this is constantly happening on such a large scale that our brains don't even realize. So the fact, it's actually funny that I remember the meditation that I had in Guatemala, because I have like real vivid meditations, and I remember the natives of the land, I could see them giving me something, and so I wonder if like that was happening to a lot of people, but like people just don't realize, because I'm just visual in meditation, but maybe when you were sleeping you were receiving codes from like the natives of the land or whatever. But anyways, so
I felt that. I felt like, because I was there for 5 weeks this time, and 4 weeks was in Antigua where we met. And so I never spent that long. Like, I rarely spend that long in a place, that's a big commitment. And I felt that, especially after I visited Volcan Pacaya. I don't know if you climbed that one.
my brother did, though. It looks so good.
Yeah. So it's about an hour or two outside of Antigua, and it's a pretty straightforward hike, but it's an active volcano, and like people are roasting marshmallows.
Oh,
and
no,
like,
I did do that one. That one. Yeah.
okay.
So cool.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I felt like I came back down. I had this wild dream, and I felt so activated, and I worked on my book outline like for like 18 hours straight. And like and other times being there, I just like would do a bit of yoga and sometimes smoke some cannabis, and I just feel so deeply tapped into the energy there, and not in a way where I'm like seeing other people or entities. For me, it's just this embodied feeling. And I've experienced that in Los Angeles too. And like, I felt like I tapped in, like at one point in Los Angeles, I felt I tapped into that energy. And I know, because when I write, it's different, like it comes out differently. Sometimes I'll write and I'm like, it's just words coming out, and they make sense because I know how to do this. But then like other times I'm in this flow, and it's just such a different cadence. And in Guatemala, it came out so differently. And I feel like it's a special place for me individually, but I feel like it's just a special place for anyone because of the energetic dynamics of that grid, or whatever it is.
Hectic. That most hectic grid. And it's funny because I had that meditation after I climbed that mountain, that same one that you did. Wow. And I remember I felt like I was high when I got off. Like my vibration was like, and then the last night before Sam and I left, because I was with my brother, there was a big earthquake. Were you there for the earthquake?
I was there for the earthquake. Yeah.
And it was huge. Like we got woken up. I was like, what the hell? Like the grid there is electric. So, and it's funny, Venice, I feel like there's a pocket in Venice that has a very similar grid. Same but different, but electric. And I guess this is why I'm always drawn to Venice. And there is a lot of creatives in Venice. If I go more inland, I don't feel the same vibe. But so it's interesting, but everyone's different again. Like, you know where you're drawn to, where you feel alive. I was in Dubai. I felt like there was zero electricity there. Zero. I was like, why am I so flat? Like, I just feel like, blah. And even me, the oracle energy person of the world, like who has an abundance of energy, I had to work harder in order to generate electricity in my body in order to feel something, anything. And if I didn't do that, I would have been very easily just sucked into whatever the vibe was of Dubai in that moment. And I think that's an important thing to note to people who are watching. If you're in a place where you just feel blah, you have to work harder to generate some sort of electricity or energy in your body. Otherwise, you're just going to be a victim to falling to whatever the energies are of the collective in that space.
Mm. What tools do you offer to beginners when they're beginning that journey?
Breath, a lot of breath work. Like I'll just do breath of fire. That's what I was essentially doing, like 3 minutes of breath of fire just to get this chi and this energy just like working through my body. I did a bit of kundalini. I did a bit of just like somatic dancing as well. Just like but breath. It was breath for me. That was the biggest thing for me.
That, yeah, 100%. I love, yes, because that's something we connected on when we met. Did we connect about Kundalini right away?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my friend that I'm meeting this afternoon was teaching Kundalini yoga on the lake.
That is so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I met both of you back to back, and her lineage is, I believe, she's from Bangladesh, her family. And so she's a brown woman. And it was really nice to connect with her over Kundalini because, as you know, my journey with Kundalini has been a bit challenged in that I accessed it through people who were maybe culturally, not maybe, they were culturally appropriating Sikhism and selling capitalism, but also sharing these really important tools, these really dynamic, energetic tools. But I met a medicine woman earlier this year, and she just basically yelled at me. Like, she was like, you have to do breath of fire every day and burn this sage. Here, take this sage. And I'd stopped burning sage because I was like, I'm a white woman. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And like breath of fire is like, oh, it's tough I don't exactly know how to access yoga because blah, blah, blah. And this indigenous medicine woman was just like, do breath of fire and burn sage. Like, for fuck's sake, woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take care of yourself. You want to help people? Help yourself. Like, get out of the
Totally. I know. And it's hard, but you like, it is hard when people put taints on things. It's hard. And, you know, but all we can do is continuously show up as ourselves in our most authentic way, that is balanced and not ego driven or cult like. And you know, it's just having all the different things for the toolbox, and they're you know what works for you. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm glad you are back on the sage and breath of fire train.
It's a good place to be.
It's a great place to be. Honestly, 3 minutes of breath of fire every day. It's so good. But if you ever want to just like get like freaking crazy, 11 minutes of breath of fire. Delicious.
Total game changer. Total game changer. And like what a democratic tool that, like, it all just comes back to our breath. Everyone has access to their breath, even if it's just deepening your breath, bringing more intention to your breath. Something I do is picture a grounding cord into the earth, and just like releasing, like through the exhale, like all of the junk, just like the earth can hold it. She's here for me. The mountains can hold it, the earth, the ocean, and just like letting it flow through. And like we all have this access. And for me, it's like we're talking about, like being okay with what's happening in the moment, accepting your choices. Like, I'm going to do this thing, so I'm going to do it fully. I'm going to be tapped in, centered, and I have my breath always to come back to.
Totally. 100%. Yeah. Breath. And that really goes back to as well, like chi, just cultivating your own chi energy within yourself and making sure that's always flowing and moving and there's no blockages. Because when I feel like when you have no blockages in your system and you're cultivating the chi throughout your body, you are more sovereign. You're more sovereign, because it's your flow. It's no one else's.
And we have to be sovereign to show up for the collective. Like, we have to have
right. Age of Aquarius. It's sovereign in community.
So what's next? What's coming for us? Because we're learning to be grounded. We're learning to follow the flow, just being human, like the sacredness, the spirituality, being human. Like, what's coming for us in the world?
All right, let me see. What's coming for the world? There is a lot of change coming. There's a lot of this goes from like now until like 2026. is what I can see. And it's like I can see water crashing, I can see like earthquakes and, but it's nothing to be fearful of. It's just earth shifting densities, it's just the same way we internally are clearing stuff from our system. That's the same way the earth is doing it too. So this is why it's super important for us to be able to find our space in the tornado like you have, because the tornado is going to keep going. And this is sovereignty. The world outside of you is never going to stop. The world outside of you is not all going to just be put into place. And this is right. And this is right. And this is right. And this is right. Nothing outside of you is going to fill a void within you, and it might be a little void for a little bit, but then the circumstances are going to change again. So the most important thing that we can do as humans is find our centered space in the tornado, but then be accepting and okay that sometimes we're going to get sucked into the tornado every now and then, and that's also okay too, because we've got the tools and we've got the awareness to get back to the center of it. We know we can't expect to just be sitting in the tornado and be like like we have to accept that sometimes the tornado is going to suck you in, and then but we're all of a sudden going to be like, oh my god, the tornado just sucked me in, what do I need to do? And then it doesn't take too long to get back. It's a dance, so allow the outside world to do whatever it needs to do, practice the dance and coming back to the center. And then remember to have fun.
Fun being the key. What would you say to people who've made their life's work or their advocacy around trying to change the outside world, like working in politics or activism, fighting that very, very moral good fight, and yet is feeling more and more hopeless and more. I know a lot of people right now who we're looking at the heat rising and looking at the stagnation of our political systems and have no hope.
We need desire, right? We're humans. We need a desire for change. Like that's part of the soul evolution and the growth and all of that. Like we need all of that. And again, it comes down to the truth not being black or white. It's more whole, and what is someone else's purpose and what's another person's purpose. Like they know in their bones what their purpose is, right? But to help with the feeling of helplessness, they have to get to a space within themselves where they're actively embodying 100%, what it is they want to change in the world or what it is that they want to do. Like they're living in their 100% truth, not in their hero complex of I'm doing this to try and be a better human. Like if you're actually embodying this fully, then that's when the shifts in your world vibrationally actually start to take form. So even though, yes, there is outside things that we need to, fight for in order to get changed and things like that, but essentially it always starts with here, always. So when you embody it and when you're not doing it just to be the nice guy or the hero or whatever, when you actually believe it with every single cell in your being, like that's when your environment will just naturally start to shift. It's like when you start doing, healing for yourself, and then all of a sudden you start to see your family starting to shift and their perspective starting to shift without even saying a word. Just vibrationally, that just starts to happen anyway. So I think the same thing can be applied.
I hear you. Embodiment, fully embodying. I think often of this story. I was out at Fairy Creek documenting on the front lines. This is a place where there's these beautiful old growth forests that are being logged for profit. And there was a large group of people out there trying to stop that. And one day I was at the media tent at the camp and it was just a mess. Like it was dirty and everyone was stressed out. And I was just trying to get all this work done, which also seemed futile because you're just sending these missives out into the world. Like, this is bad. It's what's happening? And you're like, I'm not getting anything done. My friend was like, can we go down to the river and take a break? And I was like, the ego was like, no, we have to keep working and hero complex. We got to save everything. And then, the smarter part of me was like, yeah, let's go down to the river and take a break. We go down to the river and just like have a really beautiful, relaxing time. And we come back up and someone had reorganized the whole media center. They'd set up a table, they'd like cleaned up all the cords, and it was just like a beautiful space to be in. Like, and I was like, what? Like this whole reality shifted when I took a break. Like,
yeah.
And I've been thinking like part of my tornado vortal shifting paradigm of the past week has been like clicking into like, what are my priorities? And like, yes, I have all of these beautiful impulses to like talk about this and do that and learn about this and advocate for that. But like, where am I being embodied and what's present? Like, I want to grow my own food. I want to have that space, and I want to have the sovereignty of clean water and access to nutrition. And so what does that look like for me in my day-to-day? And when I focus on that, what falls away? Because all of a sudden, like your interaction with time changes. Like the density of time, density is so interesting to me. Like you talk about things mattering or not mattering. It's like matter, density. And then, like my changing experience of time has been like this sort of density in like a focus on what needs to be focused on, and then everything else is just kind of like ephemeral and like, that's not important. And so thank you for all of these reflections.
Oh, what a beautiful space to get to, and it goes back to the words that my favorite word of the week. Is it an energetic liability? And if it is, it's going away. Goodbye. I just don't have time. When you know who you are in your core, and when you know what your purpose is and what you want to do here, and I know my higher self and my oracle, and like when I'm clear, that's going to just be better for everyone on the planet. So if I'm going to have anything that steps in the way of that, it's gone. And then it's funny. Oh God, we could talk for 5 years, but I'm just like, I was thinking like, then it's that thing is like, am I being selfish and blah, 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 but it's not. You have to come back to, by me being able to show up as my fully best self, that's the best thing for everybody else. And that's not selfish. That's not selfish. That is not selfish. It's selfish if you're like cutting off one limb to try and help somebody else who doesn't really want to be like, it's kind of like, it's all backwards and icky. I don't want any icky energy. No icky energy. Ich. No.
And a lot of that martyrdom that is icky. And I've
seen that.
Yeah. I've experienced that. You try to help from this place of martyrdom, you're not helping anybody.
And we all do it. We've all done it, right? And I just am so clear now. I know what's icky and I know what's not. Like, I had a friend who I know it's been a little bit icky for a little bit. And, you just know when a chapter's coming to an end, right? And we've been friends for a really long time, and I could feel the ickiness, and I kind of ignored the ickiness for a while. And, I was like, the universe is going to blow this up one way or another soon. And sure enough, it did. And I was just like, yeah, I just can't and I'm so blessed and lucky that my commitment to non-ickiness, the universe reflects that back to me now. And the more you do it, the more you embody it, the more supported you feel.
And the easier it gets, because you have these experience and you have these embodied experience where you go like, oh yeah, that worked out. And I trusted that. Like when I had that feeling, I trusted that, and that worked out, and it showed me like clearly.
So clear.
So this is part of what you do in your Oracle sessions for people. And you've also started the Mothership.
Yeah.
I'm a part of it. I'm so grateful for, because I personally yearn so much for community. And I've been really excited to be finding more community in person, but also these online spaces, because we're living online and we're accessing tools online. And the Mothership has tarot insights, Kundalini classes, which I was so stoked on, your regular channeled meditations, and all sorts of other fun things. And it's so affordable You've really made it accessible for people, which thank you so much for creating this space and allowing people to tap into it. without breaking the bank.
Yeah. No, I'm happy with it too. And yeah. So my work previous to this, I owned meditation apps. So I've built communities before, and so I've had a couple of like practices, and now this is my thing. And I know it doesn't have to be expensive. Like, if people want to jump on, they can. Like, I don't want to, like, the last 2 businesses I did, it was like, I've got to keep striving and be in my masculine and blah, blah, blah. And I just cannot be fucked with that anymore. I just can't. It's just, I'm done. So I'm like, if you want to join. If not, don't worry about it, And so I kept the price point low, and it's always flowing. Like, I'm meeting all these new people, and, I've got different people lined up, but it's not like a strict thing, but it's just alignment. It's a very aligned community, and I let it move the way it needs to move. So yeah, it's awesome. And I can't wait to have you in there to do the tarot workshop.
Yay. Yeah, I'm so excited to take it for a trial run. The official date of the workshop is the Lionsgate on August 8th. But we're gonna do a fun little trial in the mothership beforehand, which is going to be really great. I've been really having fun feeling into what I'm sharing and how I want to present it. And it's like, it keeps surprising me, which is
awesome,
which is really cool. And yeah, that's been part of my growth this past little while, is like the tarot just brings me so much joy. Like it's an infinite treasure hunt, and like I love it, and like it keeps connecting dots, but there's been like some like guilt around it, like, is this really what I should be doing? And like also like because I've had so many challenging experiences with spirituality, like I don't want to be just another person who's like selling. Like I can't, that's not how I'm not capable of showing up that way. I try, and like it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. No, you're doing really well.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's interesting, the portal. So I just want to say this because I'm in Vancouver right now, Coast Salish territory, and we have this mountain range, this beautiful mountain range, and there's people call it the 2 lions, and their bridge from downtown to the North Shore is called Lionsgate.
What?
Lionsgate Bridge. Yeah. But what's interesting is that I've heard an Indigenous woman, like a local, one of the host nations, talk about the so-called lions in the mountain, and she's like, well, we referred to them as the 2 sisters, and she's like, we can call them Leos, like meet in the middle, and that's really interesting to me, and especially what's that?
And you're there.
Mm-hmm.
The bridge.
And lions are such an interesting symbol. Like we see them, like everyone's seen them, like guarding banks, guarding homes, like especially like in that kind of Sphinx position with the hand over the globe. It's a very, very powerful, and it's strength, right? Key 8 or 11, depending on like that little vortex in the tarot of the 2 major arcana, where you're like, oh, which number is it? But strength or lust is the woman like holding the lion's mouth open, just like with the gentleness and grace. And the lion is our us overcoming our animal nature and being self-actualized and being the human, but like with the mental awareness to navigate.
That felt so nice on my body when you were saying that. And which is essentially, like, if we go back to the tarot, that like I kind of, and how I interpreted it of how this was going to go, it was like overcoming your own inner battles. And then that's kind of how we're ending the whole conversation with the strength tarot card, the lion's gate. She's holding it with grace, and overcoming, and just like, and this is what I hope people can take out of this conversation that we've had today, is just like full acceptance of self in all forms, however that looks, the good, the bad, the ugly, acceptance of your decisions, acceptance of all of that, and just kind of dancing the dance and finding your way back to the center of the tornado.
Yes. If you're listening right now, we're dancing. There's some swaying going on. Just vibing out. Yeah.
We're dancing.
You got to start some dance parties on the mothership.
Right? I know. I did do one. There was a somatic dance one with Lena. That was really cool. But yeah, no, I'm definitely going to do a dance party. Of course I'm going to do a dance party. That's a great idea.
they did that in the yoga community I was in. So it's not, they would host dance parties every once in a while, like for the online community, and like
That
it's
is,
actually really sweet,
yeah,
like
100% doing that. Like that's
yeah.
so on brand for me. Thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, thank you for being here. It's so nice to share space with you and chat about all of this. And I love every time we connect, I always walk away just feeling like bubbly and bright, and you're just such a joyful spirit, and you're just spreading so much love on the planet. So I'm so grateful to know you.
Thank you for the chat. And yeah, if anyone has any questions about anything, feel free to reach out to both of us, but love it.
Yeah, you're at Molly Jane on Instagram.
Yeah, Molly Jane on Instagram. You can see what I'm about, what I do, or you don't have to. It's all good. We're good either way.
The people who are meant for you are finding you, and I love the breeziness. It's something I'm learning through you.
Well, we can't miss what's for us.
Yeah, there's so much grasping, and that's what causes the suffering, right?
Oh, I'm tired. I'm tired of that. Like, I'm tired of that. I just no longer, no ranks. Goodbye. Thank you, my love.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.